is crunch point. This is all or nothing.
But I'm enjoying the fact you keep doing a Marvel stance. You look like Captain America.
Yeah, well, I'm camera, so after, you know.
You have to step it up. Yeah, all right. It's gone from blue to white to grey, and today it joins Bernie and I in becoming ginger.
It's changing colour. I think it's working. We're just looking at the skies that way and starting to see clouds build up. Right on cue, lunchtime, the rain clouds have come over.
There's a drip there.
Oh, that is getting heavy. Last time on Red Seas, you joined us in the boatyard as we stripped all the old anti-fouling paint and sanded right back to the white gel coat. The team prepped the hulls while we dealt with some blisters along the waterline. After sanding a little too enthusiastically, we had to smooth them out again before we were interrupted by some biblical rainstorms. We spent 3 days building a rain shelter around the boat, then sprayed an epoxy barrier on the hulls. And now I think we're just about ready to start applying Coppercoat.
The nerves are running quite high today. This is it. This is crunch point. This is all or nothing. So we've decided to go ahead and put the Coppercoat on today. We've been studying the weather forecast obsessively, especially after we had all of those storms over the weekend. So there's not zero rain forecast, but there's the minimal amount. And then we've also spent loads of time kind of fixing up this rain shelter so that even if it does rain, hopefully the hulls should be fairly well protected. So we're the most confident we can be. So we figured we may as well just stride ahead and do it. But yeah, we're super nervous because basically if it goes well today, it's just all or nothing. If it goes well, then we have saved ourselves thousands of dollars over the next 5 to 10 years. If something goes wrong, then there's not really much we can do to save it. If it goes wrong today in the application, which is what all of the horror stories are about that we've heard, then it's just going to be a problem for years to come, or we are not going to be able to afford to buy more Coppercoat to fix up the patches. Yeah, it's kind of just the really scary point. I just want today to be over, and then we know that all has gone ahead and gone well. So the guys are here just making sure everything is prepped and ready, and then we will get the spray guns out and we'll get started.
I've read about this, so it goes on really thin and then it like looks terrible and blows up.
Actually, when you apply first coat, you'll see the difference between spraying and rolling.
Oh wow, okay. How come? What's the difference? Because like rolling, I know it's liney, right?
It's something that we're still trying to figure out why does roll so terrible compared to spray.
Whereas this is going to be nice and smooth.
So that's why we go this way.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. Because also I've heard that rolling you then have to sand even more at the end.
Yeah, sand more because it's more rough.
Yeah.
So when you apply it, as smooth as you get it, there's less copper you're taking off.
Perfect. So those 5 coats stay 4 coats instead of going down to 2.
Exactly.
I'm with you. Okay, that's great news. Oh, it's exciting. I have goosebumps. Mainly because I have no idea what's going to happen next. I'm just nervous. But I'm enjoying the fact you keep doing a Marvel stance. You look like Captain America.
Yeah, well, I'm camera, so after, you know.
You have to step it up. Yeah, all right.
Right, this is it. The Coppercoat is starting to go on. We are starting with the keels and it's changing colour. I think it's working.
So the guys have just started spraying and I realized I haven't actually shown you what's in Coppercoat. So let's take a quick second and look at that. We actually got 6 of these cardboard boxes, each one weighing 31 pounds, which I don't speak in pounds, but I'll convert it and write it up here. Basically, Coppercoat is heavy. So in each kit, you get a resin, 2 packs. And these are basically, it's epoxy, right? So just like any glue or any epoxy we use on fiberglass, things like that. So there's a special epoxy resin. And then to go with that, there's this, which is the hardener. And then with that, this is the bit that really surprises us. Oh, by the way, there's double of what I just showed you. So another 2 of those and another 2 of those guys. And then this is the magic part. And this part is where all the weight is. This is a big, huge lump of copper. So basically they make up these 4 sort of sachets, if you want to call them that. They're kind of more like ingots of copper dust, and it's really fine dust so that it can be sprayed on or rolled on. And when you mix it up with the resin and the hardener, it stays floating in it, kind of like dissolving milkshake powder. That said, part of the job of putting this on is that somebody has to be sitting there keeping this stuff suspended, as they call it, or in suspension, keeping the dust from settling on the bottom and letting the resin turn into a solid block like any resin would when we make up epoxy. So once we put 6 of these kits on the boat, we are adding a fair bit of weight to things, but hopefully means we don't have to haul out again. We don't have to put any other kind of anti-foul on again, if this works. So the guys have started painting. I want to go back down and see the excitement because, you know, I want to see the boat changing color at last. It's gone from blue to white to gray, and today it joins Bernie and I in becoming ginger. Hey, at last.
So everybody on the team has a different role. There's one person spraying, the next person is mixing up the batch so that there's a continual supply and we never have to wait for the gun to run out. One person is taking the stuff that's mixed and standing ready to pour it into the gun when the gun runs out. And one person is walking around checking that everything is getting an even coverage and we've not missed anything. So yeah, it's taking 4 people to do this, and that's definitely releasing some of our anxieties a little bit because our responsibilities are lowered. So we've almost finished the first hull, first coat, and I think we're about on track for how much material we should have used. So that's a good sign as well that we're not going to run out when we're halfway through.
So there you go, after the first coat, it's kind of like a speckled effect. It's kind of strange. You can see where the copper is. You kind of see through to the grey. It's certainly not a finish, but that's just one coat, and then they're going to go over again and again and again. So we have 5 or 6 coats depending how well we do. And that's the whole of the inside of the hull and the keel is done, which is kind of exciting. With each coat, we're going to turn the rudders back and forth so we get full coverage. Of course, I forgot to do that. So hopefully I will get pulled off.
So the most important thing when putting on Coppercoat is it has to be applied in super thin coats, and each coat must be put on when the coat before is still tacky. So you can't do one layer and then go, oh, it's too hot, I need a rest, I'll come back at 3 o'clock. It needs to be putting the next coat on while the one before is still kind of tacky to touch, but it's not going to lift the paint off. So it's a little bit easier by spray because we move faster than applying by roller, so we have a little bit more time. So first coat is almost complete. 4 or hopefully 5 more to go.
And there you go, into second coat, and already it's like a solid orange instead of that motley effect. And that is just the layers of copper building up, as far as I understand anyway. But Newton the action figure is coming back out to take a bit of fresh air, I think. You a happy man?
Me and the boat need to breathe.
The boat, you're right, man. You're drowning inside that mask.
You want to waste second coat?
Yeah, so it's starting to thicken up already, huh?
Yep.
It's amazing. It's so quick how it changes.
That, you're talking about a complete 12 or 8 coats with roller.
Ow,
Getting that
man.
in 2 coats.
Yeah.
That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just to get that finish. If you were to use
Just
a
to get
roller,
that
it would
finish.
take hours and hours and hours, and it's taking you like 20
the whole
minutes.
day.
You're just showing off. That's what this is.
So you're done going home now then, yeah? So because we're applying it by spray, we've added some isopropyl alcohol just to make it smoother so that it comes out that tiny hole in the spray gun just that little bit easier. But that means that now that it's on here, we need to wait for the alcohol to evaporate. So we're just looking for these kind of sheen patches on some of the thicker bits down the hull. And as that evaporates, the sheen will just disappear. It'll matte down a little bit, and that's when we know it's ready to put the second coat on. So almost there and ready to go. So they've been painting for about an hour now, and they're just coming to the end of the second coat, and we are now just hesitantly and nervously watching the skies. So the weather always comes from the east here, which is behind the boat, and so basically the weather forecasts are pretty unhelpful. The idea is you just look at the sky, and if you see clouds over that way, you know it's going to rain at some point. Regardless of how hot and sunny it is right now, you know it's coming. So yeah, we're just looking at the skies that way and starting to see clouds build up, and hoping that nothing too big comes along later. And here's the first real test. Right on cue, lunchtime,
the rain clouds have come over. So we're going to quickly run around and check that all of our skirts and covers and tents and jackets and everything else are working. And then hopefully it won't last long and we can get on with the next coat. Feels pretty dry.
So far, so good. I'm exceptionally nervous though, that so far we've not seen this one tiny dribble and a random drip halfway out on the curtain here. There's a drip there.
Oh, that is getting heavy. And mostly it feels like we've managed to stop the drips getting anywhere, but it's still incredibly nerve-wracking. So at least the skirt is doing its job. Basically, we were trying to channel the water when it came to come out somewhere safe. So we made this hole in the middle with gaffer tape around it to provide some weight. So hopefully any water that lands on the trampolines is going to come down and then through. And with that, suddenly the rain is finished. So hopefully we're safe. So the reason that we've been so scared of it raining is because Coppercoat is water-based. So if any water gets onto the surface before it's cured, it will just wash all the layers away. So there's a drip right on the bow here, and you can see it has just run all the way down and washed it off entirely. So the rain is just finishing now, but I think I'm going to build another little skirt around the front just to protect this bow, and we'll go around and check that all the other bits aren't leaking.
There's a couple of spots around the bows, and then on the back steps here we're going to have to repaint. But some fast acting from the guys who made these little extra roofs inside where there's the biggest leak. And I think we managed to rescue most of it, I think. Now we just need the rain to stop. Please stop. Please.
So everybody has just made some emergency rain covers for all the bits where there were drips. So we've now got extra little skirts on the bows, which were not protected. And I think we should just about be there. And hopefully there won't be too much more rain.
We've just been chatting with Newton, who's doing all the spraying today, and he has basically said that the streaks we've got like 4 lines. It's really annoying because we spent so much time trying to make sure no water was getting through, but with rain that heavy, what can you do? But those 4 streaks, he assures us that when we come around to doing up the all the stand patches, which is kind of the last stage, he can go around and touch up those streaks and make sure that they're fully covered in Coppercoat. So there was another big rain cloud over there. I'm hoping that it's not as bad as the one we just had, and if it is, I'm hoping we've managed to catch all of those drips.
So Coppercoat UK worked out for us that we would need 24 litres to give us a coverage on our 47-foot cat. So we're hoping that will give us 5 to 6 layers. And so far we're on track. So we're using 2 to 3 litres on each layer. The first layer doesn't need as much because it's still soaking in. And then you get better coverage on the layers as you go forward from there.
So we're officially on to coat number 5 of 6. And at this stage it's kind of interesting to see because the actual copper is built up so much that in the sunlight it almost glistens like a shiny coin. That, and we still have that orange peel effect which people talk about, which I hadn't really got my head around, but effectively you can see little shiny spots and little dull spots where it's slightly different heights as it's been applied. But as the layers have built up over and over, we know that there's copper the whole way through.
And we're done!
Finally, 6 coats, 1 day, spraying like crazy.
That was a long day. I think it was 8 hours that they were painting for.
8 hours constant, no breaks, and only what, 2 rainstorms?
Yeah, so I keep thinking that the scary, nervous bit is over, and it mainly is, but now we have to still hope that it doesn't rain for another 48 hours.
Yeah, we're gonna be up all night. I think we might have to, we'll treat it like a passage. I think we might take shifts. We'll just keep an eye on the clouds and panic every time we feel a single raindrop.
So, full in the morning, all the petrol lights bang, and of course, what happened, one of the stands managed to fall over and it hit a halt. So when I came running around, I found 2 stands were actually leaning over against the hull, and the rest are holding strong, but I'm just doing laps around the boat. It just feels like being on passage, it's just my shift. And so far, we're pretty lucky. So far, we haven't had any water hitting the hull, as far as I can tell. A couple of sparks of water, like splashes coming off the ground, hitting the keels, I think. But ultimately, it looks like we got away lucky. I think the reef was doing its job. Yeah, 4 AM now. I think it's going to be a pretty long night with things like this. Lightning, thunder, everything.
I've come down to assess the damage this morning after last night's storm, and I mean, it doesn't look great, but it is not as bad as it could have been. So basically 2 of these stands fell over, and you can see where they've chipped the Coppercoat in the hull. So we are going to have to do a repair patch onto that, so we'll just have to sand back that square and then re-Coppercoat it. The good news, I suppose, is that in a couple of days we're going to have to paint the Coppercoat on the squares where the stands are currently holding the boat up. So it shouldn't add any time onto our time in the hard, but it's annoying that it's going to be a patch job. So hopefully they'll come up all right.
We've been here now, what, 3 weeks, I think? We had the boat fully stripped back, sanded and prepared, a bit of filler put on, and some of the patches are a bit wobbly. We had the Interprotect put on, it had to be sanded back. At that point we flagged up 1 or 2 points where they sanded through the Interprotect, not so good. So that had to be touched up, that was then sanded back, a boot stripe was added, and then the guys put Coppercoat on. 6 coats of Coppercoat, which were all then to be sanded, it's called burnished, but basically sanded gently. We would then move the stands, spray on some more Coppercoat, sand gently, and we'd be in the water. Well, the guys sprayed on the Coppercoat, and we noticed that they were a bit aggressive with the sanders. Very aggressive, in fact. They had actually gone through all 6 layers of Coppercoat, and on some occasions they'd even gone through the 4 layers of Interprotect, the epoxy barrier that we had put on. And so we flagged this up and we raised it as a concern with the yard here, who kind of act as a contract manager, if you like, and we'd gone to them already a few times with some smaller concerns. It ended up with a fairly long meeting with the contractor, and up in the contract's office, then back here under the boat, and just as we thought we were getting to a solution, he just quit. Okay, so one last major need-to-do task before Coppercoat.
Yeah. I'm going to fall over first.